busy week. Thanks for listening, everybody. A little late getting this episode out there. I do apologize. I've been spending the last 5 or so days putting together all the final stuff for the upcoming Miserables album. It took me a little bit longer than I was hoping, so I'm actually doing this intro from home. Putting out records, it takes time because somebody's got to be the one who gets it all together, gets all the uploading done, sends out all the art files, gets the art files in the right formats. And every manufacturer is a little different. The templates are never quite the same. It's done, though. It is out in the hands it needs to be in. And it's, going to be delivered before the release show. So that's the important thing. Release show is July 23rd. So we will have CDs and all of our digital stuff will be available by then. It's just tough. I've got a lot going on right now. I work about 50 hours a week. On top of that, I've got the band, and we've started rehearsing for the upcoming shows and writing some new songs already. Plus, I've got the label, and now I've got the podcast. Don't take any of this as bitching and moaning. I'm not at all. I love doing this stuff, and that's one of the reasons I do this, is because it's so much more fun than sitting in front of a TV screen all day. Actually talking to people, conversing with people, and hearing about their lives is far more interesting. So in no ways am I complaining. I just did slip a little bit this week in terms of planning and scheduling, because some things took a lot longer than I was really hoping they would. But it's done. And here we are back on the podcast again. I did 3 podcast interviews last week. Today we're going to have Pete Mittler from Naked Raygun and the Methadones on. And actually, after Pete came in last Friday, Jeff Dean came in, and we ended up going to see Pete at the Naked Raygun practice that they did that night for the upcoming shows that they have, which was just totally rad to be able to go sit in on something like that. Pete and I touched on something interesting in our chat. A lot of you probably heard the speech that Dave Grohl did. It was, I think it was South by Southwest. He did it somewhere, where it got distributed pretty widely. He mentioned seeing Raygun as one of his inspirations, and I thought that was really cool because, so far as anybody knows, and this is why I asked Pete about it, there's no relationship between Grohl and Naked Raygun. Not on a business level, not even on a personal level. The respect is really just about the band and the music and the experience he had when he was younger. I think that's awesome, and sometimes I don't feel like that happens enough out there. When it does, it's a really special thing. So, as you have a chance to talk about bands, talk about them, recommend them to people, share stuff. It's amazing how many times I'll see a band share something and there's so little commentary on it, yet they'll post, a dick or fart joke and everybody chimes in on it, which is just, I get it. Everybody needs to laugh here and there, but you know what? For a lot of us, music is as much of a release as anything else is. And I if I'm stressed out, I listen to an album. I was just posting on Facebook. I had all this stuff to do, and I needed a break before I sat down and did this, and I needed something to let some steam off. And I popped in the first Foo Fighters record, and it's just an awesome record. And it lets you let go a little bit, So I'm running late on getting this out, so I don't want to do a long intro. For Detroiters out there, go save yourself $5. Get your tickets for the Whoapocalypse show now. It's coming up in a few weeks. Do it. You can go to whoarecords.net, any of the band's Facebook pages, my Facebook page, look at my Twitter feed. You'll find links to buy the tickets. A last-minute show notice. The Miserables will be playing on July 3rd at Cobra Lounge in Chicago. It's coming up quick, so we're probably not going to be on any of the promo out there. We are playing the show, though. It's the Infected's last show, and Buck was in last week doing a podcast with me. Apparently, they had a band drop. He asked me if we wanted to do it. We all said absolutely. Day before, July 4th, good time to go out, have a good time, see some music. The Infected, if you haven't seen them, it's wild, man. They're like thrash metal punk, but the guitar playing is out of this world. Nate, I see all the time around town. He's one of the guitar players. He's a really cool dude. We're also playing July 5th in Lombard at the Brower House. And then our album release party is July 5th at Liars Club. Hoping, a lot of people that were involved in making the album can come out. Liars House is gracious enough to do a hosted PBR hour from 8 to 9 p.m. We all know what that means. It's going to be a great time. We have Life After 6 with Megan from the Wanton Looks and Vortis playing with us. We're talking about doing some summer, fall tour dates in the Midwest and maybe beyond. We haven't settled on all the dates yet, but we'll keep you posted when we've got them. Music submissions were a little light this week. I didn't see a lot of bands come through and submit music. I also didn't push as hard this week for submissions because I've been busy with all this other stuff. So this week I'm going to put up some music by some buddies of mine who I also consider an inspiration of my own, a band called PT's Revenge. We're going to have Kevin on the podcast coming up. He was also in the Teen Idols. We did a record with them on Row Records. This is from their latest release, Never Let Her Go, and the song is called Cool Later Bye. So here it is.
Headphones in general.
Yeah, after a little bit. But you got to wear them, dude. Like, when Justin was in here, it was cool. But, like, Justin's audio was really in and out because he kept, like, moving back the microphone because he didn't hear it. Like,
I can probably guess who else did that.
Dan wore the headphones the whole way through.
Did he?
Yeah. But he was sitting there, like, going like this the whole time.
Did he do this
like,
a lot, though?
He always, not too much.
Every interview we used to do, he would always do that. And I'd be like, dude, talking to the mic. I used to keep pushing him forward. And he'd be like, what are you doing? You're talking to the microphone, man. You got to get close.
So let's start with, I think I do this with everyone now, which is like, where'd you grow up and what kind of got you into the punk rock scene?
Wow. I was born and raised in Chicago in the city. Most of my growing up in Portage Park. I still live in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Where's Portage Park? That's northwest.
It's on the northwest side of the city. Yeah, if you took Irving Park way out to when you start to believe you're not even in the city anymore. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. There's like a little theater up there.
There is the patio theater. I love it.
I know the neighborhood.
I love it. I've been going to that theater since I was little, tiny. Cool. I saw Star Wars there in 1970 something. Whenever it came out, whatever year it came out, that's the year I saw it there.
That's awesome.
I still go there regularly.
Okay, so Portage Park, grew up there, and then that's always been my home base neighborhood. I lived for a very short time in Brighton Park on the south side, and I don't know if I'd even say I lived there, but that's where I was every day, for about 2 years. But I grew up there. What got me into punk rock, I think. Mainly, always liking hard, aggressive music and being a teenager. I had an older sister who was, party girl and listening to heavy metal and stuff in the early 80s and that. And a lot of her friends introduced me to, like, metal and, kind of snowballed from there. Then I got into, like, thrash metal when that was new, early Metallica, early Slayer, that stuff. And then looking for something more, That's funny.
Got into hardcore.
Dan said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, his story was the same thing, which I thought was cool because, and you guys are a few years older than me. I didn't grow up in, like, the early Metallica years, right? Like, the music on the radio when I was growing up was, like, Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Poison.
Yeah. This was, those bands, those bands weren't really around yet. I mean, they may have been, like, local bands in their hometowns at that time, but they weren't popular yet. Yeah. But it's funny you say that because I used to see Dan at metal shows before he was playing punk. I remember what Dan looked like with long hair. I remember his jean jacket with his, like, I think one of the bands was Sodom. That was one of the bands from back then. And I remember seeing Dan at Metallica for the Ride the Lightning tour. He was just one of those people that there was a handful of people you saw at every show, even back then. Yeah. I remember seeing him at Voivod with Celtic Frost and stuff like that. And then, one day I'm at a show and, hey, that Generation Waste was playing. Hey, that's that dude I see at all these shows. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So when did you start playing music?
Why?
When?
Oh, when?
And why? I guess both.
Start playing music. My grandmother made us take piano lessons when we were really, really little. My grandma was a piano player. Actually, a lot of my family had people who played instruments. My aunts and uncles all played music, and they still, actually not so much now, but even up to a couple years ago, they'd still, like, on holidays, they'd be playing, like, these crazy old German songs, and we'd, like, me and my cousins would be like, all right, we got to get out of here. So I played piano, which didn't stick. I was not interested in that at all. And I played trumpet. I started playing trumpet when I was, like, I think 8. And I played trumpet until somewhere, probably about 8th grade, when I discovered heavy metal, and there were no trumpets in heavy metal at the time. So I lost interest in that pretty quickly. Not to mention, I constantly butted heads with the band leader, who I hated. And then, started playing a guitar. I traded a concert ticket to, I can't remember who it was right now. I'd say something like Def Leppard or something really early for my first guitar. The concert ticket cost $20, and I don't even know where I got the money. I probably saved up. My grandma kept giving me money to get a haircut, and I wouldn't. And so I had the money. So I bought the concert ticket, and then I traded it for a guitar, a cheap $20 guitar, and then traded that one for another guitar, and that's how I started playing guitar. And actually, though, I started playing bass not long after that because I always was more of a bass player than a guitar player anyway. Guitar was never one of those things that, well, I'm still not very good at it. I can kind of play it, but I'm just not very good at it. The bass was just so much more natural for me.
Yeah. And what were the first bands that you played in?
I think the very first band I ever played in was called Last Vatican Council. It was just 4 dudes from my neighborhood. And the one guy is still like my best friend to this day. He doesn't play music much anymore. But that was fun because at a time when I was really into hardcore and when hardcore was really blowing up, like that metal-y type hardcore, like this was probably like 1985 or 6. And that band was totally the opposite. It was like Sex Pistols, real simple 3-chord, you know what I mean? And we'd play with these hardcore bands. It was just a riot because I loved hardcore, but I was playing in this other band, and it was just so funny though. Some of the bands we played with Boom and the Legion of Doom. I remember, and that was just insane. They're from Detroit, so so that was the first band I was ever in. And after that, there were a couple bands. Like I tried to play in other bands with like guys from high school and stuff, but there weren't many people into that kind of music at my school. And then I started a band called the Dry Heathens with basically 3 of the same guys from Last Vatican Council, and then a couple other guys. And that was just like, that was almost like, kind of like the Dwarves earlier stuff. It was kind of like that. Like we wrote songs about, like we had a song called Satan's Calling, and it was basically about Satan calling the pizza man. It was like retarded songs about just retarded things. It was pretty funny though, but it was fun.
Yeah. So in terms of like, you got, when did you get to being in the Methadones? Like, how did that whole thing come to? Like, what was the path?
I'm prepared for this, man. I was thinking about this on the way here. I knew you'd ask me that. The Methadones was funny because I ended up in that band because the band originally started in the early 90s as a side project for Dan from Screeching Weasel, Dan Vapid, and Pat Buckley from the Vindictives. Okay. And I think the very first bass player was a guy named Chuck. He was in a band called Green Street. Yeah. I don't know if he was the very first bass player for the band, but he was the bass player when I joined. And I was playing guitar then. I was more of a guitar player then, even though, like I say, bass was just more natural for me. But that was probably about 92 or 93. And Dan and I had a mutual friend from Canada who was visiting for I think it was like the third time Screeching Weasel reformed. And he came down for that because he apparently believed that was going to be an uncommon occurrence. So he came down for that, and we were hanging out with Dan and at a bar called The Crypt up on Devon and Western. And I remember Dan was saying how they needed a guitar player, and my buddy Mike's like, "Hey, Pete plays." So, and actually, I think the first show we played was in '93 at the Electric Banana in London, Ontario, because that's where my buddy lived.
I've been to London, Ontario before. Yeah.
Great place.
I've played there a couple of times. Yeah.
So that's how I ended up doing that. And the band,
you played guitar at first?
I used to play guitar. I was the lead guitar player at that time. And so we played a few shows, but not many. We just couldn't get our shit together. I can swear on this.
Yes.
Okay. I just, I'm retarded. But yeah, so we played very few shows. We just could not get our shit together. We played the old Czar Bar on Division. It was what was the name of that organization? A homocore show. I think that's what they were called. And but with MDC or something silly like that. It's like really odd lineup. But that version of the band was very, very Ramonesy. The premise for that band was Ramones and Cheap Trick. And the majority of those songs ended up being are the songs that Dan sang on the first Riverdales record. And then the ones that were left over, he ended up putting on Mopes records mostly. And the Methadones that formed later in like 2000 or something, we didn't use any of those songs.
Okay. And when you guys got back together in 2000, were you on bass at that point?
You know what? I think I'm leaving out a lot. How much time do we have here?
We got plenty of time.
Okay. So we did a few shows. We couldn't get our shit together. There were all kinds of issues with Pat. Pat being in the Vindictives, Joey didn't want Pat to play in another band. Ben didn't want Dan to play in another band. So the band would break up. We'd get back together. We'd break up. And so it was hard to keep members. Chuck moved away. Buckley ended up quitting. Actually, I think when we really broke up, I don't remember who was to blame at that point, but I was pretty bummed. And then Dan started the Riverdales, and they went on tour. They were gone for a long time. They were on tour with Green Day for like that Dookie album. And they were gone a really long time. And then when they came back, Dan was like, "Well, listen, dude, we can still do this, but like as a side band." So we did that somewhere in the mid-'90s there. And we had a bass player who we were never real thrilled with his playing style. He was a finger player, and for punk, especially that style, it doesn't always work. You got to be really good to make that work, and he wasn't. We had about I don't know how many drummers, countless, and nobody. It just would not work. We just could not make the band work. We recorded a couple songs. I think I might have a copy of that somewhere, and it just wasn't working. We were trying to change the style a little so it wasn't too much like the Riverdales. It just wasn't working. So somewhere in the mid to late 90s, we just gave it up. Dan moved to DC. He was there for a couple years, and then when he moved back in 2000, we were just hanging out. I didn't think we were going to start up again or anything. And when he moved back, we went to see the Real Kids at the Beat Kitchen, and I remember standing outside. He's like, "Man, screw it. You want to try to do that again? Yeah. Do this again?" And I was like, "Yeah, what the hell?" And then I was like, "There's a little problem." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, I haven't played since you left. Yeah, I just haven't played. I could." So I tried playing. I hadn't played guitar at all, and so he was like, "Well, I'm going to go record these songs, like the first Methadones album, Melodies." He went to record those songs. He's like, "Do you want to come and record?" I'm like, "Dude, I can't play. Yeah, I can't play lead guitar. I can't do it. I haven't played since you left." And that had been a couple of years. I think I had played bass a couple of times, but I was just bummed, Yeah. I was just like, "Man, screw it." I was ready to give up playing music. And so then he recorded that record, and he had B-Face play bass, and whoever else was on it. I think Lumley played on it. Dan probably did all the guitars. I think he did all the guitars on
all of it.
So, and then he came back, and I tried playing the guitar for a little while, and it just wasn't working. He was like, dude, why don't you just play bass and, get a different guitar player, Yeah. Which I thought was pretty cool. He could have just said, you can't play, I'll get someone else. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. But, yeah, actually at that time we had Joe Principe.
Okay.
He was playing bass for us, which was kind of funny. There's some funny stories about that. And actually Dan Viklinski played guitar for one show. We did one show with me playing guitar. And Dan broke his hand 2 days before the show. So he couldn't play guitar. So we asked, Joe was already playing for us, but then he was like, well, I could ask Dan. He's a really good guitar player. He learns quick. These are easy songs. Yeah. So we asked Dan, and basically it was so funny. We played one show at the Fireside, and Joe and Dan are standing next to each other, and they're playing. And Joe's yelling to Dan, okay, go to this note. Okay, go to this note. Okay, go to this note. That was pretty, I could hear him on the other side of the stage. It was a riot. And I sucked so bad on guitar at that show, and that's when Dan and I had the talk. It was like, dude, I couldn't argue. I was just like, you know what though, but bass is more natural for me anyway. So, and then we got Mike Byrne. He was the only guitar player we tried out. Mm-hmm. I gotta be honest though, I already knew him, and I liked him as a person. But when he walked in, I don't know if you know what Mike looked like then. It was a riot. He came in with his glasses, and his hair was all parted in the middle, and he's wearing like a Star Wars shirt. I was like, you got to be kidding now. I told Dan no. I said, he can play. You're right. He's a really good guitar player, but we got to do something about that hair, man. So it was pretty funny. Yeah. And, but that just came natural too. Mike got sick of that as well. So, and then that was that. From there, we just did everything we could. It was never like a full-time band, it was always like when we have time. So we did what we could with that, and called it quits in 2010.
But you guys toured a bunch though in the meantime.
We did, surprisingly. I was holding down a regular 40-hour minimum 40 hours a week job at that time, and I think our first drummer, I don't know what he did for a living, but so I was the one who mainly had time issues. The other guys had jobs, but not anything that they were willing to, dedicate their lives to or anything. Mm-hmm. So I was the only one with a real full-time job. So it was pretty much me that was like, I can't go on tour for 3 months. Not to mention by that point, we were all somewhere around 30, and we couldn't, none of us lived at home, and none of us had rich parents, so we couldn't really go on tour full time anyway. We just went when we could. We'd do 2-3 weeks here, 2-3 weeks there. Yep. Did shit loads of weekend stuff, Anywhere we could get to in a weekend, we did. Mm-hmm. And so that was actually kind of fun, though. I mean, I think
a lot of bands do it that way now. I mean,
yeah, I think you have to.
There's been Brendan Kelly on his blog had a post about that where he talked about there's sometimes a big misconception about bands, even if they're on some of the bigger punk rock labels. Yep. When they get home, they're back to work. It's not like they're just raking in royalty checks or something.
I don't know how a mid to lower level band survives now, honestly. Jeff Dean, for example, how does he go on tour all the time, and make any money? Yeah. I guess I should ask him that one day.
I'll probably ask him. I'm talking to him in 2 hours.
Oh, well, there you go. Ask him that for me. Get back to me, would you? I don't know how.
But he does the engineering thing.
Yeah, so he makes money. It's probably what helps to support that. I mean, but I don't know how a band at that level goes on tour that much, and they tour a lot.
They tour a ton.
Yeah.
A ton.
And I don't know how a band that plays any place smaller than the Metro can make a living, or even just keep the band going. It's expensive to keep a band going, especially with gas now and stuff.
dude.
I don't know how anybody does it. Yeah. I don't know how you do it. You guys go out on tour regularly.
We only did 10 days, man. I mean, that's okay. That was still costly, dude. I mean, we didn't break. I'll bet. We almost broke even on the deal, like pretty close, but we ended up having our show canceled. And so like that set us back like about $150. Yep. Like we had to rough. Stay another night at a hotel. Like we didn't want to drive down there.
Every day off costs you a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. So
sometimes even a day on costs you money.
Yep. But yeah, gas was brutal.
Yeah,
there's a immediate like notice of holy cow. It's everywhere we went, the cheapest we might have paid was like $3.50 a gallon somewhere. I think we might have paid.
I think that's about the time the Methadones stopped touring was when gas really started to shoot up. It was like, man, we just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, not to mention, like at that point, I don't know how old we were at that point, but we had been doing it a few years, and we were all looking at. Clearly, we weren't gonna turn it into a career, and we were all looking at doing other things with our lives as well. So
But you guys built a pretty good following in that time.
I think so. At the time, I didn't really think so. At the time, I was like, man, we're not even making a dent out here.
Yeah.
But then you'd run into people later, and like, if I'd be playing in one of the other bands, and they'd, oh yeah, I saw you play here with the Methadones. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're the one guy who was there. But no, I think. I don't know if I don't think we left any giant mark, but I think we left at least a small mark somewhere there. So,
yeah. Well, and I think you guys put out what, 5 records? 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, all right. If you're talking about full lengths, I'd say probably.
Yeah, full length.
I think I think there's 5. I believe you're correct. Yeah. But then there was a couple other little things here and there. But
I think it takes a lot of time for that stuff to catch on. And you notice, well, you're playing in Raygun now, right? And Raygun is like huge again now, kind of, right? Like there's all this talk about Naked Raygun. You got Dave Grohl talking about Naked Raygun and all this stuff.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, dude. And it's like, but I think like that period passes where it's like that music sits for a little while, and then it gets that time to like percolate. And suddenly the next thing you know, 10 years later, this album you released 20 years ago.
Right. Someone cares now.
Someone cares.
It's pretty cool.
Now. It's kind of cool, though.
I think it's really cool, actually. And, that's what I was in a band a while back that ended up breaking up. And, one of the reasons was, well, nobody cares about us.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that stuff takes time, man. Oftentimes it takes a long time.
A really long
Look at any band that's like starting to really get popular. Chances are they've probably been around like 10 years. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It takes a long time.
Unless you're like a teen pop sensation.
Exactly. Unless you're really, really pretty and skinny and willing to blow somebody. I don't know. I don't know how that all works. I just assume that's what they did.
Who knows? Or
I'm just jealous. Which is also extremely possible.
So you're playing with Raygun now. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did that all come about?
When we were on tour in 2010, the Bomb was on tour in England.
I gotta ask about that too.
While we were there, I think we got a phone call. One of us got a phone call. It wasn't me. That said Pierre's had a stroke. That was spring of 2010. Of course, we were all like in shock.
Yeah.
And so, we were over there. Nothing we could really do about it, but we got info from his wife, and we'd found out details, and, of course, we were all shocked, and bummed. So I think they wanted to see if he was going to get better or what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think it was like winter of that same year of 2010 when they called me and they said, "Hey, would you be interested in filling in?" Mm-hmm. And the first thing through my mind is, I can't do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? How can I? This band I grew up going to see 8 billion times, and I've been listening to since I was a teenager, and I can't do that. Uh-huh. How could I can't. Pierre does these backing vocals that I'm not capable of, and he's a really good bass player. And not to mention it's Pierre. I'm like, the first thought in my mind, one of the first thoughts in my mind is, I can't fill those shoes, But of course, thankfully, some common sense came in and a little mental kick in the ass said, just say yes. You know what I mean? They didn't ask you to join. They asked if you'd be interested.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, of course, So then...
and your connection to the band then?
The Methadones had done some shows.
Okay, it was...
Yeah, it might have been the Bomb, too. I never really asked, but I know that we did a couple, when I was in the Methadones, we did a couple shows with Raygun.
Okay.
And we knew those guys. Obviously, I knew Pizzotti really well because I was already in the Bomb with him since 2004 or something. And and Pizzotti lived with me for a long time, too. So, I mean, there was already that connection. And, we used to see Spicer at shows all the time. He'd come to the occasional Methadones show or we'd run into each other at another show. And so, yeah, I mean, I think... But I think the thing that impressed Pierre the most was when we were in Minneapolis and I was moving the trailer by myself and he made some comment about me being like a big red bear. So I think that stuck in his mind or something. I don't know if he was the one who suggested me or not, but somebody did. Actually, I think Jeff Dean may have been one of the people that suggested me as well. Mm-hmm. But so they called me. Lou asked me, would you be interested in trying out? Yeah, all right. So I came to a rehearsal, and it went really well, probably because I wasn't drinking. But I did do a lot of homework for that one. I was like, holy shit, man, I gotta just sit down, play these songs. Like I went through, everything from Basement Screams to Raygun, Naked Raygun, and just every single song on there I learned, and then clearly have forgotten some of them. But I went through and just like sat down with those records for about a week beforehand, and like maybe every day, maybe every other day, and learned them. And so I must not have sucked that bad. They kept me around.
So, and what's your guys' like playing schedule like? How often are you guys playing?
You mean shows?
Yeah. Like in general,
seems like last year we did a little bit more, but. We did New Year's Eve. That was, I don't know, was that the last show of last year or the first show of this year? I don't know.
I think I was that at Flatiron?
No, that was right here.
Okay.
What's this place? Cobra Lounge. We played New Year's Eve.
That's right.
But these are the first shows we've done since then.
Okay.
So we're going to do these two shows next week. And then I know we're going to Denver to do Riot Fest in Denver in, what is that, September? Mm-hmm. I think it's in September. Something like that. We're going there then, and...
Are you doing the one here?
No.
Okay.
No.
You guys aren't doing Chicago.
Well, I don't think so.
Okay. I don't know.
Not 100% on that, but I don't think we are.
Okay.
I don't think we are. I would hope that if we are, someone would tell me. Who knows? But no, I don't think we are. And I don't know if we have anything after that or not.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot. It's every few months a show, it's not much. But it's kind of, for me, that's pretty cool because those guys got other stuff going on. I got other stuff going on. Time is hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy to get dudes in a room. We were talking about that earlier.
It's very difficult. Really it's very difficult.
So have you guys noticed that Raygun seems to be coming up recently? It's not only Grohl. I heard someone else said something about Raygun too, and I can't remember who it was, but
I don't pay much attention to anything. Like if someone doesn't send me like that stuff with Grohl, he mentioned the band in like a month. He mentioned the band like 3-4 times in public speaking, but had no one sent me a link, I would never have known about it. Like people were just like, "Hey, look at this! This is cool."
Yeah.
I don't really pay much attention to really anything. So
dude, you guys gotta get on that. You got to call Grohl and be like, "Hey, man,
yeah, right? How about it?
Take us on a Foo Fighters tour."
I know. I think it was last. I don't remember if it was last summer or the summer before when he was in town when he made that speech at Lollapalooza. We did invite him. We were doing one of the after shows, and we did invite him to come. Mm-hmm. And there was talk maybe he's coming.
It's Dave Grohl.
Okay, yeah.
I
was like, well, if he comes, he comes. If he doesn't, I don't care. But I shouldn't say I don't care. It would be cool. It'd be like something to tell my grandkids. Hey, this guy came. Yep. The drummer for Nirvana. That would be cool. But he didn't. I don't think he came, and I wasn't heartbroken either.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Interesting.
It is cool though that he mentions the band. I mean, he seems like a pretty stand-up dude, you know, especially to do something like that. Like, to keep giving a shout-out to a band you saw once 25 years ago. He
doesn't have any relationship with either. Like,
exactly.
He doesn't know you guys or anything.
I think that's pretty cool. And it makes me wonder if that's, you know, if he's doing that on purpose, like to, you know, give a hand up, or I don't know what, you know, what you would call that, but give a little free promotion to the band or something, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, or maybe he really is that. Maybe he really does that maybe he really does feel that indebted to the band, you know, that he feels it necessary to mention it all the time.
I would think he's just saying it because that's how he feels about it. I mean, you know, again, it's like he doesn't have any tie to you guys
exactly.
in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly. So I mean, maybe he does really feel like, you know, that changed his life, and that's why he does it. And I think that's pretty cool, though, still. Yeah. You know, whatever his motives are, I still think it's cool.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He's not getting any money from us, so obviously he's not doing it for that.
Yeah. So, you know, is Raygun like the only thing you got going on right now? Are you guys still doing the bomb? What's the deal
the bomb slowed down a lot due to all kinds of things, mainly time. You know, Jeff Dean plays in All Eyes West, who are on tour all the time.
Bands.
he plays for a lot of people. He's been in so many bands, but I know All Eyes West is his main focus right now, and they tour a lot. So getting him into a room is difficult. Getting me into a room is difficult, and getting Mike Susi into a room is difficult because, you know, he's doing Dan Vapid and the Cheats, but then he also holds down a full-time job that, you know, is pretty demanding of his time. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to get all four of us in a room together. It's really difficult. And then shows, you know, I mean, the band doesn't do a lot. So, I mean, we get offers, but we don't get a lot of really good offers. So all the time, you know, when we get offers, it's like, all right, well, is this fun or is it going to pay? Which one is it?
Yeah.
Like, and if it's not going to fall into one of those two categories, it's like, oh, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I know, whatever. People can say what they want about that mindset, but
I mean,
it's either got to be fun or it's got to be gainful. You know what I mean?
But you hear that from a lot of bands now. I mean, and you guys aren't the only bands that kind of do that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lawrence Arms have been doing that for a long time now. They really just they play a couple of big shows.
I know they definitely got a lot of other stuff going on too. So
well,
Brendan's got a few kids and that, and
Chris is living out in Portland now or something.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he moved out there. I just ran into him a couple weeks ago.
And I know Neil I assume he still is playing in the Smoking Pulps.
Yep.
So
yeah, we played a show with them in Detroit.
Too,
so. Yeah, I mean, you've seen a few bands around here do that lately.
Yeah.
And just in general, I think a lot of bands do. Well, look at even like the Descendants.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they probably get offers all the time, right?
Yeah.
But Milo is a freaking, what is he,
like a scientist or something?
Molecular biologist or something crazy
yeah.
like that?
Yeah, I don't even know exactly.
So, you know, I think I saw something, an interview or an article where he talked about that. He's like, I just used my time off.
Yeah,
like, I'm like, really? Like,
I know all about that. I did that for 10 years.
Yeah,
so.
he's like, I take like 3 weeks off in the year and we go on tour. That's what we do. And I was like, that blows my mind, dude.
That's what I did in the Methadones. With the Methadones, it was my vacation time, weekends, and every now and then I know I took not paid time off, you know, like leaves and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing, dude. It's like you got to use your vacation.
Exactly.
Days to go
it's rough out there, man. I can't imagine trying to bring a band from zero and go up from there, like in this day and age, in the environment the way it is. Like, it's got to be so hard.
I found is like when we went out, you know, as a new band, selling merch was very difficult. Mm-hmm. Where the last time around that I went through all this, like we were able to sell merch a lot easier.
Yeah,
like,
that's
I don't
weird.
know what the difference is. Like, I get it, CDs and everything don't sell as much, but even like T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. Like,
I think it's like you say, like with CDs, I think it's like, well, why should I buy that? I can just download it off the internet, you know. And a lot of times if they really want to, they can probably find it, you know, for free somewhere, you know. So.
Well, unlike ours, I mean, we're going to put our record out, and I think we're just going to make it pay what you want. We're going to do that whole model. It's like, it'll be up on iTunes, and you can pay $10 for it. But we're going to put it up on Bandcamp and just be like,
we did that with the Methadones at the final show.
Yeah.
We had just a ass load of merch in my basement, and a lot of it was just old stuff that either didn't sell for whatever reason. usually because we were too lazy to set up a merch booth.
Yeah.
But we had tons of extra merch. So at that last show, the only album that you had to pay full price for was the last one. Because that final show was record release show and this is the end show.
Yeah.
You know, it was both in
It's
one.
a way to do it.
Yeah. So the rest of the merch, I put a sign on the table. It said, pay what you want, no coins. Whatever you think it's
didn't want
worth.
the change.
Yeah, I'm like, no coins. That's just stupid. You give me coins, you know what I mean? What kind of asshole are you? So I just, it worked really well too.
Yeah.
We sold off. We got rid of a lot of stuff that we needed to get rid of.
I've thought about,
and we made some money.
Even with our CDs, just doing that, just having them in a show and be like, look, we got CDs on the table.
Right.
If you want to pay for it, fine. Otherwise, just take it.
You'd be amazed.
They're not costing us a lot to make. Thankfully, CDs are cheap. It's
now,
not vinyl, right? So it's like,
I was pretty amazed at that whole thing. I was like, all right, everybody's gonna come up and give a fucking $1. You know what I mean? And take a bunch of shit. Yeah. But it was surprising. Like, I don't think anyone really paid less than $5 for anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and most people paid somewhere between $5 and $10 for each item that they took. Yeah. So, I mean, it was pretty cool. I was pretty impressed by that.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna try and get a little creative this time around. I mean, it's like I just want people to have the music. So I don't. At this point, you have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, people have to be able to get their hands on your music, and you don't want to be the gatekeeper of that by making them pay like $10 or $15.
Yeah,
for,
ridiculous
when you're
amounts.
A new band,
yeah, exactly.
That nobody knows.
They're like, oh, why should I do that? I can buy 3 drinks at the bar for that.
Exactly. Like, I remember people would always do that argument online for a while, and I saw someone do it recently where it's like, dude, just buy the album. It only costs as much as a beer. And I'm like, people would probably rather have the beer.
Sadly.
But it's sad, like, now that they can find it online, it's like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think there's those of us out there that still want the physical album.
I almost always want the physical copy.
Yeah, you want a copy of it, and you want the liners. And like, if I can get something on vinyl, I want it on vinyl, which Dan still owes me a copy of his record on vinyl. Reminds me. But, most people now, it's just, they're just in the field, right? On Spotify or whatever.
Yep.
Just listening to,
it's
whatever they feel like.
I agree it's convenient, but I want a copy.
Yeah.
I want something to look at.
Yeah, there's those of us that do, and then there's everybody else.
Not to mention, like, you get a physical copy, usually there's, like, lyrics and maybe stupid photos or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? I like that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think that's cool. Especially with, like, vinyl. You get the big picture and big, words.
Yeah, I think we're doing our first one. We're just doing the digipack thing, the cardboard thing. Like, I'm going to do those and see how they do. And then if we're doing all right, like, I'll print something in a little bit fancier packaging. Like, this day and age, it's like, you can change this stuff anytime you want. Like, it used to be back in the day, it was like, you're going to create this package.
And that was it.
And this was it. Yep. This is what's going to live on forever and ever and ever. And now it's like, well, I can get these. And then if it does really well, I'll call Etch and I'll be like, hey, dude, can you upgrade the packaging layout for me? And I'll go print those, So... but at least that way we can get CDs out there. They look great for what they are.
Yeah.
I think they look really nice. So yeah, it's such a different market. And you guys really lived through that with the Methadones. Like, you guys went pretty much through, like, when Napster started is when you guys were starting.
Yeah, when we started.
You guys ended right around when Spotify was coming to the forefront.
Yeah. That was crazy. Selling CDs is tough.
Yeah.
Especially now. But it was tough then. It's probably tough mainly, though, because we never set up the merch booth. I was just telling Eric about that back at the practice place. I was like, yeah, we never used to set up our merch booth. We'd bring it. Sometimes we'd bring the merch and we'd set it down and we'd be like, all right, yeah, I'll set that up after a beer. And then the end of the night.
4 beers later.
Oh, shit. We never set up the merch, and you'd have people going, do you guys have merch? Yeah, didn't anyone set it? Nobody set it up.
That's another thing, though. Like, most bands going on tour don't have, like, merch dudes with them on these tours anymore.
You can't.
Right? It used to be all the time. We had a merch guy when we did Common Rider, and my buddy Kevin did it. And everybody on that tour had a merch guy. Everybody.
Yep.
And you don't see
can't do that.
anymore.
No, you can't. It's too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
too
You
expensive.
got to feed another person the entire time, and that person you got to pay.
Yep. You got to give them something.
Pay them.
Yeah,
so
that's rough.
It's like that's why I think that idea of like, let's just put this table up, put a bucket there, put the CDs and T-shirts on it, and be like, have at it, kids, if you want something.
Got to put a bucket that they can only put the money into, though. That no one can get it out of.
Yes. Something you can lock down.
That's my problem. Maybe. I wouldn't trust anyone with that.
Yeah.
It'd have to be in eyesight of me at all times.
That's a good point. I didn't think all the way
I'd be
through
like, some asshole's going to come and steal our money.
Yeah.
Especially if some asshole is drunk and like, fuck them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what would worry me.
I'm going to get all crazy thinking about wild ideas on how to do this. You can do it with a cell phone somehow. I'm sure you can find a way to do this with the cell phone.
There's got to be.
There must be a way. But, so Raygun, what are the dates of the show again? The shows?
June 28th and 29th at Metro.
At Metro?
Yeah.
So you guys are doing the back-to-back thing. That seems like a popular thing to do at Metro now.
That's great. I love that. I only have to bring my stuff there
once
and out once.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Because there's venues in town that have the capacity of twice the Metro, but it seems like most of the punk rock bands like playing the Metro.
These shows it's the Metro's 30th anniversary.
Okay.
And when I remember when
that place is cool, man. I played there and it was
great
awesome.
Sound, great. It's a great place, man. I've been going to shows there a long time, you know. And 30th anniversary, like, you know, Naked Raygun was a big part of the Metro, you know, from the beginning, and the Metro was a big part of Naked Raygun.
Yeah,
you know, so I think that makes sense. 30th anniversary shows with Naked Raygun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I think that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, man. I think we got this.
Great.
So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Pete's a good dude. That was a good chat. I had a ton of fun on Friday night hanging out with him, hanging out with Jeff Dean, getting to see the Naked Raygun rehearsal. It was pretty awesome. Jeff Dean and I did a little bro down with a 6-pack of PBR to go from Cobra. It was a good time. I'm going to have that chat up next week. Take it easy.
We parted with the idols and we took a common ride. What's in our minds and our lives keeps us alive. We put our hearts into revenge until the day it's out. Just brotherhood is in our minds and music is tied. Go! We stepped up under the house, seeking shelter from the storm, making one